Hey, my name's Storm, and over the next 30 to 60 minutes, I'm going to showcase exactly how I would build this AI insurance workflow automation system for Ryan here. Now, straight into things, I'm going to be building this out raw. There's going to be no cuts unless we're waiting for the AI to actually render out or generate the code. This is all going to be coded from scratch. We're not going to go over the basics of setting up AI, how you speak to AI, but if you've got a system like Codex, Claude Code, or any other open source model setup, you'll be able to follow this pretty much step by step to get this built out for you. So going over what he wants here, he's calling custom AI agents. Again, it's a bit of a buzzword. You're not really going to be using AI agents in this workflow, but he wants a system that monitors and organizes email conversations, identity claims, maintain communication timelines, download PDFs, perform OCR, and extract critical information and connect it to customers or projects. So again, there's quite a few systems in one here. So we're going to just take this into Excalibur again, and we're going to really split it up just to do it in the planning phase, right? So monitor and organize email conversations. That's number one. Identify claims. That's number two. Maintain communication timelines. So a bit of client success management, downloading PDFs, performing OCR on the PDF. So that's linked to that. Extracting critical information, it's the same thing there, and connected to customers or projects. So you've got almost two workflows straight off the bat here, right? You've got a system. This is kind of the top level one, right? You've got monitor and organize email conversations. It will then go through a detection system that will decide what the email is. And so one might be identify claims. One maybe general client discussions. And then I don't know exactly the specifics here, so we're going to make assumptions, but a third one might be something to do with, to be honest, this probably sounds like it's part of this, right? I'm going to make that assumption here. So we're going to split this into two. You've got identify in claims or maintaining communication. We're just going to do maintain communication with clients. And then we're going to do a third one, which is other. So 3 steps here. You've got an email monitor, which is continuously waiting for emails that are coming in. Again, if you're depending on your Gmail or you're on like Outlook or a third-party email service, this can slightly change, but generally it's going to be pretty much the same. You then have an AI, whether that's a set system or an agentic system, to detect what the email coming in is and tag it. It'll tag it into the 3 buckets: identifying claims, client communications, or miscellaneous / other. If it's communication, we will analyze the message that comes in. So let's write this out as we kind of plan this out here. So it will be analyze content of email / thread, because there may be more context in the entire thread rather than the latest email. Then that will go to analyze existing client PM tool for client. And so this is okay. If we have everything up to date in our project management tool, can we get that information of whatever stage that client is in? Then it will be, okay, I'm going to draft the reply. Now I have all of the context about this client. And then finally, it's going to ask for human approval and then send. This can be through a multitude of tools. If your team is using Slack, a perfect way is to chuck it in a channel in Slack where they can click a button to see the entire context, or maybe we'll put it in the message and then just 2 buttons. You have approve or edit, or send or edit underneath the drafted email within the channel, so they don't have to go into their Gmail drafts or whatever emails provider that they're using to actually send it out. One less click, one less tab switch, one more efficiency for the entire business. The second one, going to be a bit more complicated. So we're actually going to be identifying claims. That's more of the category. The next step is to then, once the detection AI has determined that it is something to do with a claim where there's PDFs linked, it will download the PDF. That's just a direct call to the Google servers. That's fine. Performing OCR. This is where you probably have to start experimenting. We're going to need to see, and I'll put this in another color, kind of the first 3 questions that come to mind here, right? It's, what is the best OCR model? We can't guess this from the get-go. Now, there's going to be leading ones that are always going to be a lot better than the others, but we want to test because this could be a contender for saving a lot of money. If the PDFs vary a lot, then we know we need a smarter model that's actually going to understand what's going on in these PDFs. If it's just purely based HTML and it's just like text and code, we can use a much more simpler model. We might not even need to use an OCR model. We can just use a standard AI model to grab the text out of the PDF. If they vary though, we're going to need to make sure that we accommodate for this in the entire system, right? So this is the big deciding factor for these two steps. Then we're going to have the AI extract the critical information. So again, this kind of links to the PDFs vary. Is this a system where different PDFs from different clients are going to come with different types of information? Or could there potentially be information missing? And we need to then have a follow-up system. And so that's another key thing here. So now that I've thought about that, I'm going to add it as a step, right? So we're going to do, you've kind of got a pivot here of like, is the information all there? If it is, then we can connect it to the customer's projects. If it's not, we want to draft a response with the missing information, right? So really that's like another AI step that you're going to need here to actually determine if all of the information in the context is available to move forward. And so I think we leave it here for demo purposes. Again, we can start to get really, really deep into how all of these are going to function and kind of all of these situations like this where we need to do individual checks. But this is ultimately, I would never kind of guess this from the get-go. This would be where we talk with you or talk with the client to actually understand how the workflow is currently working in the business, actually watching you go through the workflow on screen so we can document all of this out, draft a flowchart like this that is way more in depth, and then we're able to actually determine where the AI is actually going to be needed, where it's not, what kind of model we're going to need, etc. We're going to work with these assumptions for today, and we're going to get started in actually building this system. Now, this one is going to be a bit different. This is almost a pure backend system. And what I mean by that is that unlike the previous two videos that I've done, they all had front ends with like some design and curation done in how the experience is going to be. These backend systems like this, you never really see them in action. You only see them in the platforms that you're already using. Ideally, these are usually the bigger automations, right? The fancy dashboards and systems, they actually tend to generate less ROI than these systems that purely are hidden away in the back end and just work like magic, right? And so we're going to need to understand three things here, like I was saying before. One is what email service they're currently using, what are the APIs that email service has, how, because they function slightly differently. We're going to need to do different things depending on that. Is it Gmail? Is it Microsoft? Is it a third party? Two, what is their project management tool? Is it ClickUp? Is it Go High Level? Is it HubSpot? Is it, sorry, not HubSpot. Is it Monday? There's a ton out there. They all function the same. Usually the kind of overall workflows within all project management systems obviously follow a trend. And so the main thing here is understanding what API connections does it allow, how much access do we actually have in these tools. All of the big players usually have quite free access, so we never really need to worry about this, but we obviously need to know to make sure how we're going to actually plug into it, what the actual API connections are. And then finally, what is their communication tool? Do they use Slack? Do they use WhatsApp? Do they use Teams? Do they just use Gmail? Are they in the office and just shout at each other, right? This is how we're going to understand how to notify the appropriate team members of what steps are going on and how we're actually going to respond here. Now, I've actually built a similar system for an investment firm that reduced their email response time down to 30 seconds from 10 to 15 minutes. This was a bit more complicated. So they had a lot of legalities around how they could actually phrase things. So we needed to do an entire RAG system trained on a bunch of the owner basically published 2 books based on investment, and he wanted them to be referenced in the emails that got sent out, but the emails needed to be very specific in how they responded. And so we had to build out a whole templating system where we analyzed thousands of their previous emails and how their team had already responded to basically use that as the baseline and plug the appropriate bits of text in to minimize any risk of kind of it like diverging too far where they could then fall under like legal issues, right? I don't think this needs to go that far, but again, until we speak to, because I mean, it's based around insurance, so there's still legal stuff that we need to consider here, but we're going to have to make some assumptions just in the case of this video. So I'm going to do this using my email. So for today, we're just going to do Gmail, their project management tool. We don't know this yet, so I'm going to use ClickUp because I have that installed already, and we're going to just build a quick, just mock-up version of what I imagine theirs might look like. And then for the communication tool, we're going to use Slack because, again, I use Slack. A lot of people do. And actually, these are probably the most free common stack tools that people use in these individual stacks. And so I'm going to spend some time just building out some dummy data with AI before we move on, just so you're not going to be, there's no point me showing you this because you don't really need to see it, but I'm just going to set up a little ClickUp workspace that has a bunch of fake information, client information in again, which we can actually test against for these emails coming in. And then just to showcase, because to make the demo data, I need to connect it to my ClickUp. So this is what you'll do anyway when we're actually going to connect it when you would connect it officially to let these systems run. I'm going to click on my profile, hit settings, Scroll down to the API. I need to regenerate the key. So again, I'm going to do that off screen. Make sure I'm signed in. And then it's asked me to copy it. Okay. Then I'm going to do, I have the ClickUp API key. Where can I put it for my project? And then just for context, I need to actually give it where the project is. So I'm going to do that and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've just saved it into a .env.local file in the project folder. So you can see it here. This is where I've got it saved. I've just put the API key in there with how it told me to do it. I actually wanted to do this globally, which means I wanted this at the top level of my computer to use for everything, but it made a very good point that sometimes you may want to switch this out by a workflow if obviously you have different clients using different ClickUps or different different ClickUp profiles like that. And so just done it locally in the folder like this, how we've been doing it for the other projects. So we're just going to carry on. We're going to let Claude generate a bunch of demo data, and then I'm going to go over and showcase how we actually build this out properly. So we're back. We have a couple of things now. We have 5 test PDFs that we can use to run through the system to make sure it's all working correctly. And we have a mocked up demo actual project management tool inside ClickUp with a bunch of clients already in different areas. If we click on a client, we can see all information is filled in custom fields. So this is mimicking what a real CRM project management tool scenario would actually look like. We're going to use this. I've not actually looked at this, so this is good because this puts me into the context of I've just come into this business. I have no idea of how it actually runs internally. I need to figure it out as I go. If you're building this out for your own business, you get to skip all this because you know how your business runs. You know exactly how your CRM or your project management tools are running, and so this is going to be a lot easier for you. But I want to give you this just to showcase how we kind of do things when we work with our clients for the first time, and we try to understand how these systems actually run. Obviously, we'd have the benefit of speaking to the business and the team members of the business to ask questions and ensure things are correct, but we'll be able to get away with it here for the sake of the demo. So first things first, we're going to go into here. We're going to grab the body or the copy of the job. We're going to say, so I'm going to grab the whole thing, paste it in. This is the task I have been told to currently fulfill for a client. Now, this is going to be all backend. We're plugging into 3 separate tools here: Gmail, Slack, and ClickUp. The ClickUp is the project management tool, and the process will be we need to figure out, testing various OCR models, what's the best and most efficient model to use to build out this workflow, plug that into a system that analyzes every single email that comes in, qualify or classify the email to understand whether it's a claim email, a client communications email, or other / miscellaneous. If it's a claim, we'll identify the PDF, scan the documentation, and figure out whether to put it as a new client within the project management tool ClickUp, or we identify which client it is and then upload it to that client. For the sake of demo purposes, we can ignore other emails, but I want to have another system in the classification that detects what email is normal client communications, and to be able to draft a response based on 2 things. 1, the contents of the thread of that email, and 2, the contents of the project management tool for that client. I'm going to send that, and then trying to think if there's anything else. That should cover most of it. The rest we can probably figure out as we go. One thing I will say, finally, we want to link this into Slack to keep updating the team on relevant things that are going on, to flag anything that the system is unsure about, and to also have an approval / editing button on any drafted email so they can all control it all via the Slack channel. And we're going to send that. So that's basically covering all our bases here. We're going to see how it handles that. Again, this is a back-end system. There's not actually going to be any kind of front-end UI to this other than a Slack channel and our Gmail. But ideally, we're not going to be in the Gmail. Everything will just go into a Slack channel, which we can then approve and deny because it would have drafted everything out automatically. So we're going to let this cook for a bit. While this is happening, I'm going to set up a Slack channel for this test. We might be overdoing it here, right? It might not be anywhere near this complicated in a real life situation. So I'm just going to open that one, and open that one. So starting with O1, this is actual text-based. All the individual text is actually there as selectable text that you can copy and paste to HTML. The AI agent can actually read this directly. Number 4 is, you can see it's a bit wonky, so it's almost like a photo scan. None of this is selectable. It's all just like scanned text as an image. This one again is the same, similar one. Still, I can't select it, so it's just an image. So the OCR models will have to work here. Another wonky one, and then a final one which is similar to the first one, but just different details. So we've got some varying different colors, different some wonky text, and ones that are actual PNGs. So they're image data. They're not actual text that the AI can just extract directly. So we'll need to test these OCR models, various models, to actually see what's the most accurate one. And I believe a company or a client like this are going to prioritize accuracy over cost savings, because it could obviously have a bad recurring effect if data doesn't get scanned appropriately. We also have obviously not present data in here, so we can see how we can handle the system to identify that and actually respond when data is missing. Something I actually didn't mention, so I'm going to actually say one other thing to consider. We need to make sure that sometimes when claims come in, there's data missing. We flag it to the team, we fill out what we can in the project management tool, and then we automatically send an email back to the client saying what's missing for them to send over. I'm just going to make sure it has that context as well. But yeah, we're going to see how this goes. We've got the ClickUp area ready. We've got the demo PDFs ready. We're going to let the system cook for a bit, get the backend filled out. We're going to interview it after and what choices it's made, as we haven't given it any advice to go through right now. And then we can go from there. And I think this is generally the best way of doing this stuff. I like to try and keep it open when I'm first starting and the latest tech stack to actually use for these kind of things. I won't have any bias for older systems that I may be used to and know when there's a newer system out there that can be more efficient, more optimal, more accurate. So we're going to see what it does, and then we'll do a bit of interrogation to the AI once it's got a good amount of work done. So it looks like we're back. It's got a bunch of stuff built. It classifies the emails, extracts the PDF, writes verified data. Okay, so it's actually apparently has done a lot of it. I'm going to just, obviously I have these connections already to Slack and Gmail, so it's probably using that. I'm going to ask it to just strip that and start from scratch, just so you can see how I actually build this. Can you simulate no connection to Slack or Gmail currently, just so I can showcase to users in this video how we'd actually go through this setup? So Slack is actually relatively easy for this. Gmail can be a bit more complicated, but we'll show you through exactly how to do it. Slack is, depending on how they want the system to work, we could make an AI agent in Slack that acts as a kind of bot that the users can interact with through there, rather than just sending text directly with one of their existing accounts. It's a bit more of a streamlined workflow. It looks a bit nicer. You can eventually then make it a bot that you can actually chat to and actually discuss things with based on like the data that it has knowledge about, right? So we'll do that just to showcase kind of how I would build this kind of more complex Slack system. I think it'd be more interesting for the video as well. So while that is running, I'm going to showcase you the setup on how to set up a Slack agent or a Slack bot, whatever you want to call it. Now, there's two ways you can do this. You can do it the manual way by creating a new app. This lets you set it up manually, and they have some templates for this. Or you can go down to the generate token, generate a token for your workspace, give that to the AI, and the AI will actually do all of the setup for you. I'm going to do the second one just because the capability is there, so why not? But now that I'm thinking about it, this looks new. Using AI to answer questions, pull data from connected tools, and complete tasks. I've not actually seen this before. Slack are actually really good at updating their systems in terms of like AI capabilities. My question is, do we test it live on this video? I think what we're going to do, I'm going to just simulate what I would do live. I would use the Slack CLI. Now, I already have this connected. I'm going to show you through how we actually get this connected, and it's a lot easier than you probably think. But I'm going to just basically, what a CLI is basically telling the agent exactly how to connect to all of the platform's tools. And by doing that and having access to the documentation, I'm just going to simply ask it, what is the appropriate method to go down, setting up this agent in Slack for the capabilities that we need. We don't need to make any assumptions here. We don't need to guess. We don't even need to look it up. We're going to just allow our AI agent to do it because it's going to be better at discovering this than us, right? Especially if you're a So how do we set this up? The easiest way to set this up is just literally, I will copy as Markdown this Slack CLI, or let's go to installing for Windows because I'm on in Windows. I'm going to copy that as Markdown. Markdown, again, is just a formatting. Okay, so it looks like my blocker actually blocks this. I'm going to refresh. Copy as Markdown. I'm going to go into a new chat. I'm going to paste it all in. This is the installation guide for installing Slack CLI. I want to build an agent for this project that lives in Slack, that controls all of the notifications and potentially actually answering the user about any questions that you have within like the project management tool in ClickUp, etc. Can you install the Slack CLI and then guide me through actually setting up a bot in Slack that has the appropriate capabilities to do what we need based on what you know about this project? And I'm just going to send that. This may just, to preface it, it may not work because I already have the Slack CLI installed, but we're going to see if it will just kind of do it for us. And then I'll just ignore the bit where actually to kind of give it permission, API key, etc. You just follow the steps exactly and you'll be able to get this installed really, really easily. So again, we're going to get these to cook and then we'll come back once we actually have some either instruction or something to review. Okay, so both chats are done. It's updated Slack, so obviously I needed to do an update, and it's saying that it's not installed yet because it's the saved session is invalid. So it's basically saying my old login has ran out. We need to do a new one. So this is good. I can guide you through the actual login steps. So I'm going to say, do the login for me and like just help me sign in any way I need to. I don't want to run stuff in terminal. And we're just going to see if it's able to just run it for us, because usually it can. Sometimes there are occasions it can't, but usually you can just tell it to run it for you. And it will run the commands. It will launch like a login browser for you to just click in and we can go from there. So we're just going to see if that runs. Okay, annoyingly, it's done it in the built-in browser. I'm going to say, do this. I'm going to close this actually. I'm saying, don't run it in your built-in browser. Run it on my main Firefox browser. While that's doing that, I'm just going to read the rest of the message. So it's saying choose Bolt for Python. So that's just saying like what kind of software or what programming language and stack it's going to use to build it. I'm happy with completely trusting the AI here. It's going to know the capabilities a lot better than me. And I imagine most developers would also agree with that choice. While that's loading, let's look in the other message. So now it's going to be setting up the Google Cloud. I think I'm going to leave this for the moment. Let's get Slack fully set up because this is going to be a lot more of an involved process. Google Cloud makes it a bit more awkward when you're trying to set up systems that are going to be basically reading into your Gmail or dashboard or workspace, etc. It involves a lot more of you basically have to almost make your own Google app. Now, again, you don't need to be technical. The AI can handle lots of this and literally hold it by step. And so I'm going to do it alongside the AI with you so you can see how to actually set it up. And if we run into any problems, we can solve them live. Go back to Slack. It's switched to the My Firefox window. Let's see where it is. It doesn't look like it has. For me, I don't see it. Okay, so it looks like it can't figure it out here. So what I will do, just to make it easier, rather than going through a whole cycle of trying to get it to use my browser, I'm just going to open up a terminal, and in T3 Code, I just press this button to open it up. If you don't know what a terminal is, you can just literally type it. In Windows, it's command prompt. In Mac, I think it is called a terminal, and it's just the kind of code command interface. And if you've got any experience installing any of the coding CLIs, like Claude Code or Codex CLI, you will be experienced with this. I won't go into detail more than that. There's plenty more videos out there to do this, but I'm just going to run through the exact line by line what it's telling me to do. So you can usually just copy it all and just paste it in, but sometimes I find it doesn't want to let me do it just because okay, so it's going to do it one by one here. So it's switched to, so it didn't actually do the change directory. Okay, so you see here the CD, it's meant to change it to this file location, but without getting too complicated, because it's on a different drive, it's not done it. So I'm going to make sure I actually restart that, and I'm going to do this manually. So now if I recall, I think all I need to do is to hit that, yep, and then I can now run exactly everything here. So I'm going to hit paste. Is it not copying? There we go, paste. Okay, so yeah, sometimes it messes up the formatting. So I'm just going to do it one by one. Again, you're seeing the mistakes live here. So we've changed to the location of the job. I'm going to do Slack login. It's now runs the following. So I'm just going to Slack got any channel and DMM. Okay, so I'm going to copy. Did it not let me copy that? Okay, so that's really annoying. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to see, can I do it in here? Okay, this is already switched here. So I'm going to try, if I do it in here, would it let me actually copy it? Okay, here it does. So I'm going to open Slack in the channel and I'm going to, come on, copy that. Doesn't want to let me copy it, does it? Copy, paste, there we go. Okay, so it's asking for permission, confirm, paste this code back, paste, no, okay. 7A7, W60, QB. Okay, let's try again. Confirm, LAUA, COHY, Lauachohy. Okay, not going well. Let's try it back in. I'm going to try a third tool now. I'm going to use VS Code, which is another common tool used for development. You guys may not be running into this, but I am, so we're going to just work through this. Okay, so we're in the location. I'm going to go here and open a new terminal. And then we're going to try it in here, step by step. So we're going to do Slack login once it loads. Let's get rid of these. Don't need to see all that. Okay, we're in our third normal terminal window. Let's go Slack login. We're going to copy that, go into our Slack, paste it again, hit confirm, copy that, hit submit. We're in. Okay, I'm imagining it was the caps, and for some reason I couldn't enter the capital letters previously. And once it's logged in, what do? Slack doctor. Okay, Slack doctor. Okay, everything is good. That's basically just checking to see if the connection is all okay. I'm going to close that. I'm going to close the terminal. I'm going to do it in here again, and then I'm going to do the final one, create agent. Choose Bolt to Python for the initial app. Use chat, right? Okay. It's not actually told me what to do there, so I'm going to say Slack doctor reported a valid session. Can you take over the rest of me? Let's see if you can just handle it now that the connection is there, because that, again, that'll save me doing all of the complex permission setup, which is very easy to mess, and you can go in circles trying to do it yourself, especially when you're first starting off. So hopefully the agent can take over fully for me here, and let's see what it does. Okay, so it looks like it's got the connection now. It's found the workspace, and it's creating the agent scaffold directly in this project, so we don't have to do it. That's the joys of AI once you get it connected, that is. But the good thing about this is if you use Slack, once you've got this connection in place, you likely won't have to touch it. It will always be there unless you do an update like I did. But again, the AI agent can always guide you through. And if where I knew the way, the probable way of solving the issue I ran into, if you don't, you just ask the AI. You say, hey, it's saying it's invalid, or hey, I'm copying it into the terminal and it's not pasting. It will guide you through the ways of getting around it. This is the capabilities of AI. So we're going to let that cook. And once that's done, that should hopefully, I think we'll get onto actually building out the connections between the actual backend that we built, or the AI has built in this case, and wiring it up to the actual bot that's going to live inside Slack and actually post the relative stuff that we need, whether that's an email draft approval, updates that's happening in the project management tool, etc. So we'll wait for that to finish. So it looks like it has fully completed the Slack side of the setup after 23 minutes. Let's see if we've got anything in our Slack. No, but we have a notification that says that the agent has been invited. So that's a plus. The existing ClickUp token returns unauthorized. That's strange because we just did it. I need the Slack notification channel name or ID. Okay, so what we're going to do to get that, you want to go into channel details, view channel details, you get the ID down here. I'm going to paste. This is the channel ID. We just recently set up the ClickUp token in another chat. It should be within this project in the env local file. And then we're going to send that off. In the meantime, we're going to just have a look at what was going on in this chat again. So this is the app to set up the Google Cloud project. We're going to get this started while we're waiting for the rest. I'm going to bring this over to the appropriate browser that I was in. So it asked me to log into Google Cloud. Now it's doing it from scratch. This is great. I'm going to just do insurance claim example. We're going to hit create. And this is going to create a new project within the Google Cloud. And an easy way of explaining this is just any way that you're going to be connecting to various services across the Google platform. You need to make a project to be able to do this. And again, the agents are really good at helping you out with this. So, okay, it gave me a project name, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, I've just made a project. I've titled it insurance-claim-example. Can you use the Google Cloud CLI to set up everything that you need so I don't have to do it? And then what I'm going to do is if I click on the projects picker, it should, okay, here it is. I'm going to just give it this, just so it has a reference of what it needs to actually do once it gets the connection to the Google Cloud CLI. Now, again, I already have this set up. We're going to see if we can reset it up live just so I can guide you through it. But it has quite good capabilities, these agents, to be able to basically do all of this backend stuff on the Google Cloud. So we're going to see if we can just get away with letting it do it. Looks like the Slack agent is being wired into the backend appropriately, and we're just going to wait again for these two to cook. So it came back asking me to do the login, but I've just sent a message saying, guide me through the login process so I can actually show you what we would do. Now, if I just search this, they do have a page Got too many tabs open now. So you can see they've got a page for this. If you hit get started, I'm pretty sure they'll have a thing you can do just to, so what I would literally do, okay, here you go, copy pages markdown, and you would just paste this to your agent and it will have all of this information in the appropriate format for it to run it through with you. And it's going to be really, really easy for you to do. You won't have to really stress about with it. I'm just getting it to make a separate configuration just so it logs into this project, doesn't mess up my main stuff, and we're going to go from there. So Google side is done. I'm going to tell it to, can you just run the commands for me, and I'll do whatever I need to do on my browser. I'm going to send that off. We're going to check on the Slack. The Slack agent is live. Great. If I go into Slack, do we see it? I'm going to say, it doesn't look like he's in the channel. Do I have to invite him? And what are the current capabilities of the agent, just so I can see? Just so we get an idea of what it's actually done, because we have no idea if it's actually complete or not, right? We may need to make some tweaks about how, like, its permissions, its capabilities, that kind of thing. So we're going to wait for that to finish. We're going to wait for this one to finish. It's going to start running through the login system now. And so you can see it was telling me to do a bunch of different commands. I'm going to see if it can just do it for me again. So again, it doesn't look like it's struggling to do it. So I'm going to say, is this like a URL based OAuth, or do I have to actually do something else here in terms of like signing up, etc.? OAuth is basically another word for like almost like subscription with your account. We're going to see if it's something to do with the AI's end having an issue with doing this, or if it can just give me a URL that I can just click and kind of sign in. We'll see. That I can open up manually. So we're going to see if it can just give me the URL and I can just click it manually rather than trying to get the AI to open it up for me. And we'll go from there. Slack is done. Let's see. So I've got to invite the bot. We're going to go back into Slack and invite him. There he is. Read only questions, report project claim status, respond in DMs in engaged threads, maintain conversation context in a thread, post workflow updates and approval cards. Okay, that's great. So it can't edit ClickUp, create or assign tasks, change status, approve claims, make payment decisions, or autonomously send client emails. That's pretty good. That's very secure. That's how we would want it, at least with starting off, especially if this is a general access agent. You don't want anyone in Slack just to be able to make it start changing stuff, because that could cause, as you would imagine, a lot of problems. So I'm going to say, so can I start talking to it now to test it, or do we need to plug in some other stuff for it to have the information of what's going on and what its capabilities are? We'll go back to the other one. I opened a separate visible PowerShell for the name configuration. Did you do that? Yes, you did. Here it is. Go to the following link in your browser. Okay, so I'm going to select all that, copy, go to our browser. Oh, it might have just done it here. Okay, we're going to just hit continue. This might be old now. I don't know if it was the previous login system, or let's see what it does. Okay. Okay, I think you actually ran it before. Okay, I've just signed in and I've reached the you are now authenticated with the G-Cloud CLI page. Can you see it, or do you need me to do it the manual way still? We'll go back to Slack. Yes, you can start testing it now. The runner is healthy and the live ClickUp Q&A is working. No additional connector is required for the current test. It can read from the ClickUp. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to copy that, go to the channel. I'm going to at it, X Pro, and I'm going to do that. So this actually looks new. This looks like especially with this kind of response system, that's quite nice. This must be a really new implementation. And there we go. We already have an agent just like that working in our own Slack channel that anyone in the team can access and message. So just for my case, and just to educate both of us here, I'm going to say, okay, before I had to set up systems that were hosted on various platforms to actually enable these AIs to run in like the cloud per se, like this agent is currently doing, or running it locally. Is this running locally on my computer or on like a service, or is this a new feature with the Slack agent system? We're going to see what it's done. Maybe it just did set it up on my computer without me knowing, because I've done it before. And if so, I'm going to just guide you through that as well. But it'd be good just to know. So you can see here, this is actually a vital point. This is hosted on my computer. The Slack CLI and the Slack commands that is installed, just has installed a bunch of software on my computer that has allowed it to kind of host the agent so it runs somewhere, because it has to run somewhere. Slack doesn't run this for you. So if you want this live, we're going to need to push this to an actual live service. Now there's various ones that do this, and again, depending on budget, location, capacity, etc., it's going to vary what you want to use. I've used Fly.io for stuff like this before, so I'll probably use that just to show an example. But I'll also ask, again, I'll ask the AI what it recommends to use, and we can go through that entire process as well of actually hosting it live on a website so it lives off this computer. Otherwise, I would have to leave this computer on 24/7. But going back to the Google installation. It now says the login has succeeded. Google organizational policy rejected the required Gmail publisher permission. So you do not need to repeat authentication. Must allow Gmail. Okay. So can you not do that for me? If you can't, please guide me through the exact steps of getting this set up, including the exact URLs that I need and the step-by-step instructions to complete it. You can pretty much use that prompt for a lot of issues that you run into, and it's going to shortcut a lot of the actual setup on your end rather than you having to kind of keep asking it questions on how to actually guide you through it. That gives you the getting the exact URLs are really helpful, because most of the time, especially for such a big service like Google, the AI is going to know the exact page that you need to go to do the step that it needs you to do. So again, both systems or this system's cooking while that one's doing it. I'm going to ask this one, what would you recommend to host this agent based on the capacity that we're going to be running for this system and the kind of like speeds it needs to be, while also keeping in mind that I don't want to be spending too much on this? And we're going to see what it comes out at as its answer, because again, there may be a better solution than what I was using before, because I've been using my setup for the whole year basically, and someone else might have came out. There might be an official partner of Slack that allows us to be a lot more efficient, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to wait and see. So it said Fly.io, Cloud Run, Slack hosted, and it's recommended Railway. Now, I've heard a lot of about Railway before. I've never personally used it, so we can go through it first time. But the one that caught my eye is the Slack hosted deployment. Could remove the server, but our current app is Python. Now, I've not heard of this before, so I'm going to say, can you just explain to a non-coder how the Slack hosted deployment works? Is this a built-in Slack service that they offer to run my AI agents in their own cloud system? If so, what is the pricing looking like for that? Let's see what Slack offers. So yeah, we can host it directly with Slack. Got an analogy of what I've already explained, how it's hosted on my current computer. What does Slack charge for it? That's the most important thing. Currently set prices for $8 per active user a month. So is that I have to pay per user in my current Slack who will have access to this bot, or is it just $8.75 for the bot per bot I install per month? And where it's talking about Slack is currently hosted in this, and our agent is hosted in Python, it take AI 5 minutes to transfer it over to the appropriate. It's fine. Okay, so that's a crazy pricing structure. It charges per user who is in Slack per active. So yeah, per active human, which is ridiculous. That grow. Okay, so I would not recommend that at all. That's silly, really. So let's just go with Railway. Seems to be the obvious setup, and it can be just a first time setup for me as well. So you can see how I actually run through these setup systems. So, okay, yep, that's way too expensive. Let's use Railway. I don't have an account, I don't think, but if I do, I don't have anything set up in terms of connections with my AI. So do as much as you can, install a CLI if it's available, and try and do all of it for me. And that's how we use AI. We tell it to do it for us. Let's see what the Google side of things is at now. Okay, so I changed them. I've not changed the policy without your explicit approval. Temporarily allow the Gmail service account. You need an account with the organizer or policy administrator. Okay. All right, it's doing a lot of code stuff. Let's just open what it's telling me to do. Okay. Let's make sure we're in the right project. Insurance claim. In PowerShell, run this temporary project only override. Okay. And then we do OAuth. Create the OAuth client. Okay, I'm gonna try something here. This is really, really complicated. Is there a way that I can do this integration a lot easier? Is there like a one-click solution that works maybe with a third party? And if so, is that going to cost? And this is kind of like the alternative route that we would have to do with our own manual integration. Do some research online to see if there is a more streamlined way of doing this. Otherwise, we can carry on with this. Now, just to highlight, if I was doing this for a client, this would be the way I would do it, because then the client owns all of the kind of infrastructure. Then we're not relying on a third party to do the connection tab. But obviously, if you're a smaller business and you don't want to worry about all of that, and you can just pay for you just want to pay for a simple third party service, you could do that as well, right? So you have options here. We're going to see what the AI does here, see if we can just avoid doing all of this quite convoluted setup. We're going to just wait for it to respond now. Looks like Railway is starting to be signed in. Okay, there we go. So it automatically installed the Railway CLI and it's asking for the login flow. So I'm going to continue with GitHub because I already have a GitHub account. If you don't, you can make one. It's no problem. If you don't want to use GitHub, you can also sign in with all of the other platforms. So I'm just going to sign in with GitHub. I'm going to accept and connect. Done. And it should automatically update when I've connected, but if not, I'll just let it know. I've completed the connection. I'm going to send that. That's still loading. In the meantime, do we have any more information on how to do this connection? Nope. While the Railroad login is open, I'm making the project deployable without shipping your local or demo database. Okay. So yeah, so now it's actually transferring it from my computer to the online Railway hosted service. So again, the non-code explanation, these guys have a ton of servers like Google, like Amazon, and if you want to run something on their computer, they'll basically take a tiny portion of it and give it to you just to use to run your own systems. That means it's in their server racks that are running 24/7 and they have a bunch of backup systems in place. So if anything goes down, it's going to come back up straight away or just not go down at all. Compared to hosting this locally on your computer, you have all of the issues of if you have a power cut, something happens to your internet. Usually these services and servers have really, really fast internet. And so that's why you pay money for these services. So you don't have to go through all of the complications and the risk, especially if this is going to be a sensitive piece of infrastructure in your business. You want to make sure that there's not just any like water gets spilled on your computer and the whole thing's gone, right? So we're going to looks like I think we've run out of the trial, so we might need to, I'll put some money on if we need to, but we're going to see. I don't know if we have like a free capacity when using Railway. We're just going to wait and see what it does. As for Google, so it looks like it's recommended to use Zapier, which is a fairly good way of doing it. They already have all of this connection built in and it's just a one-click login. But obviously then, yeah, you have to have another entire bit of software connected to this entire stack. So again, if I was building this out for real, I would probably avoid this. This may be the appropriate way to do this. One thing I will say is I'm going to ask, and I know this based on experience, the Zapier connection, does that work off of like webhooks? Will that trigger straight away when an email comes in, or would it do it on like a 5 or X minute poll? Now, what I'm basically querying here is there's different ways that softwares speak to each other. Some are webhooks and some are polls. Webhooks are as soon as something happens, it triggers it and it sends it off to where it needs to go. Polls, it doesn't do that. It's a kind of a more basic thing where you can set a period of time for it to just keep checking. So every 5 minutes, it will come and say, okay, are there any new emails in? No, never mind. I'm going to come back in 5 minutes, and it just continuously does that. The poll is a lot easier to implement, but obviously for time sensitive information, you'll want to use a webhook. And some services don't actually have these webhooks built in, like Zapier for certain services that they plug into. And so if we did need the urgent kind of instant webhook capabilities, we would then need to probably go down the first route. But let's see what it says once it does its research. And once we know, we'll probably pick the polling through Zapier. Yeah, okay, so Zapier does polling, and in the free, it's every 15 minutes. So again, you're actually limited to how quick you can do this. But for the sake of this demo, and especially for the use case of this isn't really going to be a problem. So we're going to do the Zapier route here just to keep things simple. It saves us going through the complexity of doing the entire Google setup. I think I'll save this for its own video because of the issues that can arise and making sure that this is secure, setting like budget limits and making sure the API is all set up correctly. I think it really needs its own dedicated video. So for the sake of this, we're going to connect to Zapier. Okay, yep, let's do it through Zapier. Can you help me set this up? Sign up, connect via CLI so you can do what you need to do, etc. Like prevent me from needing to do anything manually. And I'm just going to make sure, I'm pretty sure I do have a Zapier account. So I'm just going to go over Zapier. Let's sign up. We'll sign up with Google. Yeah, okay, so we already have a connection. It looks like it has an MCP server. Let's see if we can just grab it and give it the information to our AI agent directly. Okay, I'm going to bin the old one just so we do it from scratch. Add MCP server. We are currently using ChatGPT, so we're going to do that. Create your plugin. Okay. So because we're using it for a third-party service, I don't know if this will work. Let's see what it's doing. Okay. I'm going to just do that and that. And let's see if it can just figure it out from that. I mean, these agents are pretty intelligent, right? So I'd be surprised if it doesn't. So we're just gonna, we're gonna let it see if it can just figure it out by itself and come back once it's actually either asking me to connect, sign up, etc. So it looks like because I'm using T3 code, I can't actually connect via this way. So I'm going to just launch ChatGPT and basically do it manually, right? I'm just going to follow the instructions here. So I've done step 1 and step 2. We're going to go into Codex in ChatGPT here. Oh, let's close stuff out of the way. And we're going to go into the settings. This is my fiance's account, so she has a funny username. And we whoa, that's not what I wanted. Thanks, Windows. We're just going to do this. So we're going to create an app. Maybe it just be under plugins. Surely it's under plugins. Add a marketplace. Browse directory. Zapier's got to be on here. Wow. Seriously? Zapier is not a default connection? Okay. All right. If that's the case, let's just follow the instructions. Okay. Plugins. We want to create plugin. Okay, why is it doing it like that? That's weird. I don't want that. Turn on developer mode. Developer mode. Okay, I have to turn that on first. Is that doing it through... That's doing it through ChatGPT though, which is not really what I want. Is there a... Does it have a cursor? Sorry, not cursor. Does it have a codex? Is that how it's separate? Doesn't look like it. Maybe we need the direct API. That doesn't look right either. Okay. Sign up. Open Zapier MCP and create a new MCP server. Let's start again. Add MCP server. In ChatGPT. Let's do ChatGPT. We're going to go back to ChatGPT. Go to add, create plugin. Okay, let's just ask it. Can you create a plugin for Zapier? I'm going to paste what it says there. And then that's really the only prompt. Okay. Let's send that. Let's see if this is the official way to do it. Because, yeah, I'm guessing it's just, I don't know why it's so complicated. Usually, just for context on the developer side of things, an MCP is just a tiny bit of code that sits in one of your, like it's like 4 lines long. It's barely anything, and it's in the same format for every MCP you install. So I don't know why it's struggling so much with this, but sometimes this happens with AI agents and you just got to get around it. So we're going to let it use the plugin creator workflow to see if it does it. While it does that, I'm actually just going to say, can you just not make the MCP manually in the file that stores all the MCP connections for Codex? We're going to see if it can just do that. Okay, wait, no, let's stop that. It's done it. Create a variable, install it with. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to open a terminal. We're going to paste that. Okay, that's done. I installed it, but I had no authorization go through. And let's see what that does. Maybe I'll just, no, I'm going to let it do that. Or maybe we can do it here. Okay, I've ran the command to add it as a Codex plugin, but I've had no authentication pop up or anything like that. I'm not going to send that yet. Let's go back to the Slack. Okay, the railway is connected. Free trial is expired. Okay, I'm just going to put $5 on just so we can get this fully loaded up on railway and we can actually test it live then. So let's go back to here. Let's go to railway. Trial start, upgrade to hobby, $5 a month, no problem. I'm just going to fill in my details and be back once it's signed in or paid for. Okay, while I was paying for that, this popped up, so it looks like it's working. I'm going to hit allow. And sometimes it gives a code, so you can see whenever you have to do authentications, just keep an eye out before you close anything. Your agent should notify you what to do. So if I go back to Codex, it'll probably ask for a code. Okay, yeah. I'm going to say, do you not need the code returned in the URL? Just because I know, based on experience, this is a thing. I don't know if it's automatically grabbed it. I'm going to copy it just in case. Okay, so yeah, it's automatically done it. Sometimes that doesn't automatically do it, but in this instance it has. So I'm going to say, okay, the MCP is set up and connected. Can you check it for me to see if you have the connection? We're just going to verify that works. We're going to go back to railway and yep, looks like we're on the hobby plan. Go to dashboard. I'm going to also say, okay, I've upgraded to the hobby plan. Can you continue? We're just going to let that go. And again, we're cooking away with 2 agents. One thing I will say to keep in mind when you're running multiple agents working on the same project, try to ensure that you're not doubling up on having agents work on the same system, especially when you're doing it manually like this. If you have a more built out agent system that you're using to develop with, where you have like an orchestrator that can control multiple agents, then you can trust it in doing it appropriately. But it's best to try and segregate what you're doing to specific tasks, to specific agents. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. They're usually quite smart and can figure out when another agent is doing something else. But then one thing that we would mention is then you want GitHub set up. You want to make sure that these agents are doing GitHub commits for each part that they're individually working on, potentially in different branches. Again, I'm trying to avoid the complexity in the development side for you. If you have no developer experience, I'll do another video on kind of the basics of GitHub when doing vibe development like this, or vibe coding. But for this case, our connection is fully connected. It is not loaded as Zapier tools yet. Restart or reopen Codex. So what we're going to do is make a new chat, and we're just going to say this because it's told me to do it. And then what I'm going to do, could you give me a prompt to hand off to the new chat that will describe what it needs to build and connect to the rest of the system once the onboarding is done? So we're going to do that as well, just so obviously this chat has all the context of all of the work we've been doing this far. Ideally, I don't want to lose that and have to explain everything from scratch again. So I'm just going to get it to write me a prompt to hand off to the other agent. So now we have 3 agents cooking. Railway is going along. They're getting the project set up to be hosted and to run for us. It's working through its problems. It's triggering the connections now, but I've noticed it's trying to connect Slack and ClickUp, and I don't want it to handle that. The only thing I want this to handle is polling of our email and then sending it over to where it needs to in our custom coded solutions. I'm just going to say the only purpose I need Zapier for is to send. Actually, what I should probably do is grab the prompts from here. Okay, I just want to make sure we're only using Zapier for the Gmail polling, right? We don't need it for Slack and ClickUp. So I don't know if you want to adjust the prompting to accommodate that, unless I'm wrong here. So yeah, I don't know if it's just lost the context of what we were actually doing here. And that's why it's quite important to kind of keep on top of these tools. I know we're using Luna, which is the cheapest model at max, but you just sometimes have to, yeah, put it back in its place, which is why I would be cautious to believe anyone who says that these systems can just work straight off the bat. Now, if you put a lot of work into building out your documentation, and I know I'm setting stuff up for the first time here, if you have all these connections in place already, it's usually pretty good, but it's usually these first time setups that take a bit of actual manual tweaking with these tools and with AI, even with the capabilities that they have. And this is obviously because we're not just giving it full reign of like my entire desktop to control. If that was the case, it could just take over my mouse and do it for me, but we want some level of security here. So I'm going to copy that prompt. I'm going to paste it in here and give it a quick read. Yeah. Okay, so it's still doing too much here. It's giving the input about the backend processing and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to say is, no, there's still too much here. All we want to do is have literally a simple couple of zaps, which poll Zapier and then probably send it to an either API endpoint or whatever you think is appropriate in our Railway hosted backend. We don't need Zapier to do any responses, direct ClickUp integration, backend processing, etc. So again, just having to reiterate, I don't know why it's being stupid today. So we're going to wait for that to give us the prompt. It says Railway is live, test it in Slack. So is our local version of this shut down, just so there's no conflicting issues? We're just going to make sure the local version that we have hosted isn't going to cause any issues here, and we're going to work straight off of the Railway hosted version. Cool. So our Railway side of things is all sorted. That's the cleaner setup. Yep. Okay, we're going to copy that, go to this, and just paste that in there. And then we don't need this chat anymore, so I'm just going to settle it. That's just a nice feature of T3 Code, is that they have these cards for every system. It shows when it's working, it shows when it's ready for review, and you can press settle or actually set a little reminder for it to pop back up in an appropriate amount of time. Really handy just managing multiple agents, especially for multiple projects that you may be running. You may be overkill for you if you're just doing this. Available, generate account, leave account, provide Railway domain, and webhook secret. So I'm going to get the... I'm just going to ask, what is the Railway domain for this project to give to another agent? We should also log this in the workspace somewhere, maybe in the top level agent.md file. Context, if you don't know what that means, a top level agent.md file is basically just every AI that you work within a project on your computer is going to have a agent or Claude.md file. If you're using Claude, it's going to be Claude.md. This is what stores all of the information for this project. And every time you speak to a new agent or chat to your agent, that prompt that is in that file, that bunch of text, is loaded into every single message. So it has that context every single time. Maybe not every single message, but at least in the initial creation of the project. It's been a while since I've looked at the kind of fundamentals of how these systems work, but it's one of the others, and that's kind of why it's important to usually they're pretty good at being able to update these when they know, but in this case we're going to prompt it too, but it also looks like we didn't actually have a domain set up, and so it's going to work through that. Okay, so we're still waiting for that webhook secret. Okay, can you open up the URL that I can get the webhook secret for you, or is this our internal webhook secret that we got in the backend? So I don't know if that means what that's basically asking for is a special code that will basically let us, almost like a password basically is the easiest way of explaining it, special password that allows tools to make sure that things are secure and connecting to each other. So we're going to wait and see. So yeah, this is an internal one that we actually put in the system to make sure that Zapier can speak to us securely. So it's going to do that. Looks like we're generating the secret on this end here. So that's asking for it, and this is generating it. We're going to wait for that. Use the internal backend secrets. Yep, you cannot retrieve it on setting. Okay, so we're going to wait for it to generate the secret here, and then we can just let it know that we've got the secret in the railway only shared memory. Okay, we've got that here. I'm just going to copy these two, paste it in here. The secret. The other agent is asking for it, but for now I'm going to paste that so it has the domain. And then we're going to wait for the secret to come through as well. So that looks like the secret is done for a set different method. Open and verified the blah, blah, blah. The secret should be in the right mode. Blah, 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 blah. Can you do that for me? As we normally do with AI. We're going to see if it can do it. And then while that is cooking, let's make sure. Cool. So we're going to let it do that. No, it's trying to do it through the browser, but I'm not logged in and I don't want to log in there for security purposes. So I'm going to do it manually. Give me the direct URL where I can grab this for you. We're being real lazy today, boys and girls. We're not moving a muscle where we don't need to. Just to do it manually. Let's see. Okay, where's the project? X-Pro Elite Ops. Again, I've not used Railway before, so we're doing this together. Shared variables? Nope. Secrets, where are secrets? Where are your secrets? Maybe not here. Logs, observability. Nope. I don't know. Okay, it's telling us. Select the service, blah, blah, open variables. Shared variables? Find X Pro agent secret. Nope. Let's make sure that is the right bit. Project, select the service. We're doing something right. So we've selected the project. Select the service serving X Pro Productions. Yep, that is that one. Is it here? There we go. Okay, so we want X Pro agent shared secret. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Okay, I've got it. Do you want it in the .env local in here? Again, because we're trying to be secure. Ideally, we don't paste it in any chats when we can avoid it. Or, let's see, is it Zapier that needs this? Or do we need to put it on Zapier's side? Let's see. How do I do this manually so we don't paste it in the chat to be safe? So we're going to pull Zapier up because it's going to be something to do with that. Again, if we were building this out properly for the client, we'd skip all of this. We go directly in Google. We know the setup. It's going to be a bit harder to do through a video. So I'm going to dedicate a video just to that. But we would have it all set up through your actual Google workspace. You own all of the infrastructure then. And once the Google Cloud connection is set up, your agents can basically handle it all for you, that's the hard part, setting it up. And it's not so much hard, it's just convoluted. It's just a lot of tedious copying and pasting, going to URLs, that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's looking like it requires both railway hosts return for a 4, so don't test or enable disaster backup is required. Okay. Keep the secret in railway and paste it directly in Zapier's private headers field. Okay, so can you set up the Zap so all I have to do is go into it and paste it in for me? We're going to see if it can just set up the project for us. Just saves us going and manually making all the Zaps, etc. Don't do this through the browser. do it through the direct connection that you have via the CLI if possible. So we're just correcting it because it just seems that always latch-ons are doing it via the browser. Okay, looks like it can't, so we're going to do it manually. Let's try and speed run this. So what do we want? We're going to create a Zap. Create Zap. Loading your Zap. In Zapier, choose create Zap, trigger Gmail. Let's do Gmail. Actually, I'm going to make this, move this here, so we can do both at once a bit easier. We're going to do new email matching search. And so we don't actually want this because we want to probably send every email because we want to do the classification in our backend with our own AI triggers. So I'm just going to do new email just as the most core part we can possibly do. We're going to sign in to our Gmail to link it up, and we're connected. So that skips that entire complex code part that we were going to do before with setting up the Google Cloud CLI and then having to do the steps after that. So I'm going to hit continue. That's all done. We don't want to do anything there. Let's test a trigger to make sure that it's pulling correctly. Okay, that's good. We're going to not do anything there. Then we go to action. Webhook by Zapier. Webhooks. There we go. And we're going to do post. I'm going to hit continue. We're going to paste the URL it's given us. Payload type JSON. What this is basically doing is we have this URL hosted on the Railway app. The AI has built that for us. And we want to format a specific bit of text that our AI in our backend will always receive from Zapier. So this is what we're setting up here. Then we're going to start adding all of the different value sets here. So we're going to do this. And then let me fill them all out. And we're just basically saying now, okay, when you get this from Google, thread ID, sender, recipient, subject, body, etc. When you receive this, send it as this other bit of information. So we're mapping the data here. We're going to hit this. Now we need to start looking for stuff. So message ID, that's that. Thread ID, that's that. Sender from. I'm going to do from email, recipients, subject, no, recipients is two, subject is subject, body is body plain, attachment is attachments, exists, yep, that's fine. And then we also missed received at date or timestamp. We're going to do that. And then under headers, we want to grab that, and then we're going to add the secret here. So I'm just going to do that off screen so you don't see it, but you'll grab it back from this section here. You'll find the X Pro Agent secret, which is this one here. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paste it, hit continue. Hopefully you don't leak my API key. That looks good. Okay, I've got this set up. Is it ready for me to hit test step? So what it's going to do once I hit test step on here, yep, I can bring that back. Now you're not going to see the API key or the secret. This is going to send a message to our Railway. Once we hit send test or test step, we're going to make sure that the path, which is the kind of receiving end, is live to receive it. So we can make sure this is working. So we're just going to wait with the agent to do that. Okay, so it's saying they're actually down right now. Can we get that up and running now on Runaway so we can test the webhook? Zapier, that's what I want to do. We're going to let that, because it might not actually just be running at all. Let's have a look. It says it's online. Yeah, it says it's deployed. Maybe there's extra bits that it needs to do. We'll see. We're going to let it cook. It's come back that it's done. So we're going to hit test. See what happens. See if we get a... Okay, so we just got a message from Slack at the same time. And just to make sure, we're going to hit retest again. Maybe it was now deduplicating. So that's actually probably blocking the deduplication. Okay, I just sent a test in Zapier. Can you check that it went through? And with that being done, the system should be pretty much ready to go to actually test the, I guess we could call it the front end side of it, with actual emails being sent, analyzed by the system, the OCR processing, and then actually updating the appropriate sections within the ClickUp project management tool. So great, that's all connected. So we were obviously up with the limitation that we're on the free plan. It's on every 15 minutes, but I'm going to publish that. We're going to call it email OCR engine. I'm going to hit publish just so that's ready to go live. And then next is now to, okay, so apparently it's a premium feature. So, but we know it works, right? We've proved that it works. I can come in and do a manual test later. If you're running this for real, again, you could just pay for the subscription or just go the Google CLI route, right? So next, now we know that that entire email part is working. We now need to go on to the OCR step. So we're going to go make we're actually going to do a new chat, give the free context. So the Google polling system is complete now. We have a connection using Zapier to detect when emails are coming in, and they're getting sent via webhook to our railway system. Next, I want to implement the OCR scanning, figure out the best tool to use, best OCR tool to use, and then also tweak the email classification system that we're going to use to actually determine where the emails go to here. I'm going to send that off as the next step. And then also in the meantime, so we can keep things going, I want to now test multiple OCR/document scanning AI systems for the 5 test PDFs that we have. Can you look up using OpenRouter and other sources, the top ones, and have a mix from ones that are going to be a bit more expensive but be more accurate, and then ones which are going to be a bit more cheaper? And we're going to send that off. So we kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here and keep things efficient while we're working. I'm just going to now say to this one, I'm having another agent actually explore the best OCR models to use, so I wouldn't worry about that. I think the next thing to focus on is the classification system that's going to wait for the email to come in, classify what type of email it is, and then pass it either to the OCR system or the secondary system that's going to draft a response based on if the client is asking a question about something within the processes that the project management tool is tracking. We're going to send that. And so the way this will kind of work is you'll have, with ClickUp, every time the agent detects an email comes in and sees that it's a communication kind of email, it's then going to ask ClickUp to give the AI all of the information about that specific client currently. It's going to load that into its prompt and then figure out, based all of that context, if they can answer the question that the client is actually asked in that email. We're going to make it so if it can, it will draft a response. If not, it will flag it in the Slack channel and actually say, hey, this client has asked this, but we currently don't have any answers to that in the project management tool. And if there is someone specific who handles this, we can even at them directly in Slack, or we can just keep it a generic open question for the appropriate person to answer. The other thing that we would probably have here if we were speaking to the client is we would be able to ask how does the format of the emails that come look like when people are submitting claims, right? Is it for a form on their website? And so it always comes in the exact same format. So it's really easy to identify. We may not even need an AI classification step to even find it then, right? We can just filter it by a certain thing in the subject line or the body copy. Any situation where you can avoid using AI like that is going to be way more reliable, way more efficient, way more cheaper. So when you can make those savings, definitely do that. Do not rely on AI doing everything here. But for this case, for the test at least, we may do that. But I also may want to see what it looks like with the full classification AI, just to show you guys how it would work and what it actually looks like when it's fully built. So it looks like it found models to score, but my OpenRouter API key isn't set up. So we're going to just set that up now. For those of you that don't know, OpenRouter is basically a service that hosts like hundreds of AI models all together. So you only need to have one key to access all of them. Very, very handy. I do recommend using a service like this so you're not having to wire up individual accounts across every single platform that you want to test. I'm already logged in, so I'm just going to grab my API key and put it again in the .env local for this project so it can run. So I've just pasted it in the chat here because this is a temporary key. It's going to disappear in an hour and it won't be possible to be used anymore, so I have no stress about it getting leaked or it being abused, etc. So I'm going to let that cook. It looks like the other system has implemented the classification system. This will obviously need some testing and refining, but like I said, generally, if we're speaking to a client, we know what the likelihood of the emails and what the format of the emails are going to be as they come in. And so we can tweak this. For the sake of this demo, I won't get into too much detail, but we know the system is there and it's implemented. And we'll do a basic test of this when we have the system running. So the last thing to do is get the OCR system in. Once that's in place, we basically do a final test or a first V1 test of this MVP, and system can successfully identify the email coming in, classify it, download the PDF, classify it, extract the data, draft an email for anything that's not there and is missing, put it into Slack to let us know that that's happened, and then also update us in Slack if it's either gone through and what steps it's at throughout the entire process. One thing I'm noticing is that it's using quite old models. So I'm just going to say, I'm noticing you're using almost all of the old models from every provider. Is there a reason for this, that you're not using the newer models here? Because yeah, looking at these are all very old models, and obviously they're going to be less capable and sometimes even more expensive than the newer models. Do some research on OpenRouter and what's the top rated scoring, and also just in the general internet. But we've already got, even with that, 95% at a 1/10 of a cent for all 5 PDFs, which is pretty good, even for an older model. And sometimes you will get better situations here. GPT 5.1 is 98.3%, which is a bit better. But I'd be curious to see how it compares to the newer models as well. So let's see what it does. So the results are back. Let's see, after, I think it was about 20 minutes, it's gone through and calculated everything. Sonnet 5 looks the best. The cost is 4 cents per scan. But considering how often they'll come through, I will probably still take Sonnet 5 here. And it's funny to consider how Fable and Opus are actually worse. But then it's, yeah, and they're way more expensive, right? So I'm going to stick with Sonnet 5. I'm going to say, let's stick with Sonnet 5. Let's lock this in, get this fully implemented so we can do a full end-to-end test now. Yep. I don't think there's any point going for cheaper ones or doing fallback ones, just for the sake of how cheap it is. 4 cents, 4.2 seconds for the highest accuracy. But it's also saying GPT 5.1 scored at 98.3%. So we can explore certain things here. But I think for the sake of this test and keep this video shorter, I'm just going to leave it there. Like I said before, if we knew the format that these PDFs were coming in, this may be a lot more easier to do. We might not even need OCR extraction, but we're just going to stick with Sonnet 5. We're going to get this fully implemented and do a final end-to-end test, see if the notifications pop up in Slack, and see if ClickUp gets appropriately updated with the appropriate information that's grabbed from the PDF. It's fully implemented. We're going to say, why do we need to run that if this is all done on Railway? Do we not want to upload this to Railway based on the key that I sent you previously, put it as a secret in Railway? I don't know if it's just getting confused, thinking that we've got this hosted locally still, because we probably still do have the files locally. But we just want to let it know that the connection to OpenRouter needs to be done through Railway, because that's where we're hosting all of it. We want to make sure we're not hosting anything on our computer. If you ever run into stuff like this, just say, can you make sure that we make a note of this in our agent MD file to ensure that all of the work gets done to the Railway service and not locally? Now, just to caveat that, if you are using GitHub and you're building a more complex system, you may want to work locally in iterations and then push to GitHub, which can sync to services like Railway. A bit more complicated again, I won't get into it in this video, but just something to ask your AI about if you want to go down that route. So we're going to get this uploaded to Railway, and then we should hopefully do the final test and it should all be running. Maybe we'll need to make some final tweaks, but we should be there, showing at least one end-to-end of uploading a PDF, sending it via the email, the system classifying it, extracting the information, updating the CRM, the project management tool and ClickUp, and then let us know in Slack. Yep, it's in the chat, so just grab it from the chat and upload it directly into Railway if you don't have it. Or are you saying that there's another issue? I'm not sure what it's implying there. Sometimes the messages from AI can be more confusing than you'd think they would be. So we're just going to let it know that it can use the same key that I pasted in the chat earlier. No other issue. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So final things, where are we currently at with the full end-to-end implementation? Do we need to make any changes to do a full end-to-end test by sending myself a PDF of the email with the email formatted to be a claim? So we're going to see if anything else needs to be finished before we do that, and then we can start sending tests. So it's got most of that implemented. It needs to secure PDF retrieval from Gmail. We should already have that. Association of the PDF with the matching email thread. Temporary storage, okay. I'm going to see if we can skip this. That makes sense. That's just making sure that every time it runs for a job, it's all cleaned up after itself. This should already be done as well. And this will just need to be again, depending on how the client actually does this, we either match a name which is going to be within the PDF, or grab who is sending the PDF and the email and mapping that to a client within the project management tool. Both are viable ways of doing it. Both will work. For the sake of the demo, we'll just pick we're sending the email and map that. I'm going to say, do we need to temporarily store this on Railway? Can we not just use the fact that Google is storing the PDF and have a link from Google to send to the OCR scraper software directly? And the PDF system in Zapier should be set up. That whole workflow is in place and live. But for the sake of this demo, because we're stuck with a 15-minute timer, I'd like to just simulate the contents being sent to the webhook by us internally. Again, that's just for the sake of this demo video. Because I don't have a subscription with Zapier, I'm just going to fake the webhook to the data being sent to our service on Railway. We're just going to basically copy exactly how it would be sent by Google, but we're going to send it ourselves just to make things a bit more efficient. Okay, so it looks like it actually ran it for us. It implemented those changes I said about not needing to have that temporary storage. It's got the data straight from Google and passed it through the OCR scanner. We can see in Slack, we got the notification, claim intake complete, Bluebird Market Hall demo claim, 98% confidence. It's just done it again. I'm guessing it was just doing another test. Yeah, so it's just doing I think it was just double checking that it was working once it made a little fix. But looking at in the ClickUp, you can see it's actually uploaded the file on ClickUp as well. So it's actually stored it in ClickUp. All of the data is here. This is the non-selectable version as well. So it's actually grabbed all of that data and it looks like it's put it in successfully. If I go back and forward a couple times. Yep, 27,400 for the total, 5,000 deductible. So with that, that is basically the entire system in place. It looks like it had a slight issue with the parser, but that's nothing really to do with the OCR, and it looks like it's already sorting that out for us. So really, that is the entire foundation of the system in place. We have a system that now is hosted outside of our computer. It waits for emails to come in. Zapier sends the email over to our system with the attachment. It classifies it. It understands that it is a claim. It runs the claim through the OCR, which we picked Sonnet 5 based on the tests we did. Once it completed it, it lets us know in Slack. We can even have probably a section here. And again, this is a design choice and a UI choice that has a link directly to the client within Slack, so the team can go in and see everything that's going on. Now, yep, that's just finished off. That's the full summary. And really, that's kind of the full workflow here, like I said, as a foundation. Now, we could spend a bit of time going into the classification of the other types of emails and doing the email responses on basic chat messages from the client and using the context from the ClickUp. But just for the sake of time, I mean, this has probably just gone over an hour already. I'm going to leave it there. If you are interested in that second part, leave a comment and I can do a whole separate video on it. But that pretty much, again, covers the foundation of how you would set this up from scratch for your company. You can really, once the AI has all of this information, you can really tweak it to your heart's content. And you can really customize how the Slack bot is actually going to be communicating to you really, really easily. Because like I said, the AIs Slack has pretty good integrations of AIs right now, and they're doing a lot to try and make it as easy as possible for you to develop with them. I hope that was interesting. I hope you learned something. I hope that covered a lot of the talking points for this kind of job. And this is a job that we do quite a bit in terms of like these email response automation agents. They're quite popular right now. And as you can see, they're actually really reliable, especially for attachment, and the level that you can do document analysis now of these OCR tools are really, really good. And it doesn't take a lot to set up. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you want anything clarified in this or you want to see something implemented. Subscribe to see these. I'm going to be doing these every single day for at least the next 30 days. And thanks for watching.